Hello and welcome. Hopefully you can hear me. I haven't gone live for a little while. Looks like you can hear me. Welcome, Tony. Good to see you. Good morning. I just wanted to go over something that I learned a little while ago that's very important, I think. And I think that it can help people that might not be seeing the truth right now. I think it can help them to see the truth. This subject, former things. So I learned that in the Bible, I'm trying to go to the page right now. In these verses, the word that it uses for this former things is Strong's number 7223, and it's I'm gonna say Rishon, Rishon, and the definition is former, first, chief. And I'll just read you some of the words that NAS Exhaustive Concordance and Strong's Exhaustive Concordance have. Ancestors, before, beginning, chiefs, earlier things, first one, first time, forefathers, foremost, former ones, former things, formerly, front, older, one in front, past, previously. So that's what NAS Exhaustive Concordance said. And Strong says ancestor, that were beforetime, beginning, eldest, first, forefather, most, former thing of old time. And then it says first in place, time or rank, ancestor, before, that were before time, beginning, eldest, first, forefather, most, former thing of old time, past. Okay, I was just reading all those. We can get the idea that this, talking about the former things, this word being used here is talking about the beginning. It's talking about the first things, the first in place, the first time, the oldest. So that's what this is talking about. But it's we can learn a lot from these verses. So I got to get to the right page. Okay, so right now we're going to read Isaiah chapter 48, verse 3. And this is kind of amazing to me anyway, what I see in these passages. I have declared the former things from the beginning, and they went forth out of my mouth, and I showed them. I did them suddenly, and they came to pass. Okay, that sounds pretty simple. This is talking about something that you might not realize it right away what this is talking about, but this is talking about the 6 days of creation. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Remember, the first thing he said was, "Let there be light," and there was light. And he saw that it was good. Okay, that is what this is talking about. He declared these things out of his mouth. He spoke them, and then they came into being. And they existed after he spoke them, or as he spoke them. So it's a voice. It's the word of God. So let's read that verse again. I have declared the former things from the beginning, and they went forth out of my mouth. Kind of, I'm thinking like, let there be light, and there was light. He just said it. He spoke it, and then it became what he spoke. He says, and I showed them, I did them suddenly, and they came to pass. That happened in the first 6 days of creation. I know a lot of people don't actually believe that. But that's how all this matter that we experience in this world, all the physical things, this was all created in 6 days. All the animals, everything here, all the plants, all the rocks, everything here was made in 6 days, and we have quite a few matching accounts of the breakdown of those 6 days, what he did on each specific day. And like in Genesis, right at the beginning of the Bible, that's one of the most clear creation stories, and it happened in 6 days, and he rested on the seventh. So that's what this is talking about. He declared these former things. Okay, so now this is where it gets amazing to me. I know that a lot of people don't really think of it as something like a miracle, don't see it as a miracle or like an amazing revival or whatever you want to say. I just know that in the last 5 years or 6 years or so, there has been truth, and you might not think it's truth. I used to not think it was truth, and everybody here used to think it was not truth. But many people have learned that they have been raised in a society that is greatly mistaken about the stars, greatly mistaken about the earth itself, the very place where they live. They've made up fables, and this has been for many generations, and here we are. And now we're realizing, hey, a lot of these things aren't true. And we can actually look at this verse here where someone is asked to declare these former things. Remember the 6 days of creation when he declared them in the beginning, and they went forth out of his mouth? Okay. In these next verses, we're going to learn about a group of people that someday would be, well, let me go to the description of this video. I think I might have just worded it better. Prophecy foretells the time when truth would be presented to the people in the world who were once apostate, not knowing God, when he would call them out of darkness into his marvelous light. He would call them to declare his creation to the world, and would make them bear witness to this truth, and they would say it boldly. Jesus talked about this in John chapter 15. I think the very last verse, he said, "And ye also shall bear witness, because you've been with me from the beginning." Okay, this is Isaiah 43 verse 9. This is talking about the former things again, and let's see if we can figure out what this is. "Let all the nations be gathered together, and let the people be assembled. Who among them can declare this and show us former things?" Who can do that? That's what it's saying. Who can declare these former things? Who can declare the 6-day creation? That's what this is saying. And it says, "Let them bring forth their witnesses." Look at that word there, witnesses. That's an important word, because I know that a lot of people who think this truth is a joke, and there's even one in the chat right now that thinks that. I know that the power of God can change that. We can't change that ourselves. We can't heal our blindness from the truth. Only he can do that. And he's not going to do that with a closed heart, with a "I already know everything" attitude. Because that's the thing that I've learned about this story at the end of days. This story, that's what happens, is that the people think it's so ridiculous, they hate it so much, that they don't consider it. They actually do not consider it. And that's a lack of knowledge is what that is. Because when something is revealed from heaven, it makes things on the earth look silly. So all of the people that are understanding what I'm saying about truth, about seeing truth, none of us saw the truth to begin with. None of us. And then in these last, however many years, 5 years, let's just say, there's been a debate worldwide on every platform. And it has to do with the very place we live. And it actually has to do with 6 days of creating it. And all the details in that detailed account of this creation. You don't think God can write down in a book for his people to show them the things that he kept hidden from them? But they got so far away from him that he shows mercy and long suffering, and he shows grace and reveals this to them before he pours out wrath for all the wicked things happening. He can make us understand that. And that's what I'm here saying, is that we are understanding that we've been wrong. So if you want to stay in the camp where you already know everything and you can't learn new things, stay there. That's up to you. I do know that anybody that opens the door and considers the truth, that they will have something supernatural happen to them. And scales, not literal scales, scales will fall off of their eyes. And suddenly this ridiculous truth that all these weirdos are spewing becomes real. And you can see why all these people are spewing this truth, because it is the truth. And they bear witness to it. Because let's I wish I had my Bible right in front of me. Let's just talk about the story when Jesus took some dirt and, like, I don't know if he spit in his hand or what he did. He made a little spittle, I think it was called, like mud and spit, and made like a little mud, right? And there was a blind guy, and Jesus walked up to him and put that stuff on his eyes, on his eyelids or something, and told him to go wash, to go clean it off, to the blind man. He said, go wash in the pool of Siloam or whatever. So the guy does. It's just some mud. But the guy goes and washes his face off, and all of a sudden he can see. He literally heals this man's eyes that never worked. They never worked from the beginning of his life. And his parents even knew that. He was born blind. And his parents were like, we don't know how he can see now, but he can clearly see, and this is our son. And he was born blind. Like a miracle was done. So what I'm saying is that there's the same exact type of miracle that's happening today when people consider this. And to me, it's very important, because Jesus foretold this. He said, you're going to bear witness to it. You're going to see the truth. What is it? John 8, verse 32, maybe? Ye shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Tony, right there in the chat, I was blind, now I can see. Okay, let me address what Sean Hawkins is saying. Sean says, so 2,000 years of science is wrong, but spit can heal blindness? You are really pathetic, and your mod is a coward. Hey, Sean, we love you here, whether you disagree with us or not. Like, seriously, dude, you don't have to be, it's really insulting to just say you're pathetic, because I'm not pathetic at all. And you're not either. I think it's more constructive to disagree, but to be friendly with each other. Sean, you might be interested tonight. I'm not sure what time. I'm going to be debating or discussing with Craig from Fight the Flat. I think with Craig, unless he's bringing someone else in. But on Fight the Flat Earth, we're going to be talking about space. And I'm going to be presenting some evidence that it may be being misunderstood by people. Even though they experience these specific things we know about orbit and all the stuff that happens, there's another way to look at it. And so I don't think that 2,000 years of science is wrong at all. I think that you are actually misusing that word science. And I'll give you the best example. The ground isn't ever moving, Sean, unless there's an earthquake. Okay? In science, you make an observation and you can learn something about anything. But you can't learn about it by believing the opposite of the result, the opposite of the observation. The ground never moves. Nothing ever gives any sign of any kind of rotation or anything. So the point here is that we do make an observation of a stationary ground. And Sean, you want to say right now, if you're in a moving car or a moving train or a merry-go-round, okay, forget about all that. I'm not talking about your hypothetical situations. I'm talking about reality. And the fact of the matter is that right now you're sitting in a room or wherever you are, and I can predict that the ground is not moving where you are. See, we are making an observation, and if you want to talk about science, 2,000 years of science being wrong, science would tell you that the ground is completely stationary, okay? And you test that observation, Sean, this is what Sean says, and you test that observation, you run away from the test part. No, Sean, we can test it right now, okay? For 10 seconds, I want you to observe the rotation of the earth. And then when you're done with that, you put in the chat what you observed that was told you that the ground that in your room, wherever you are, is actually observing. Is rotating. Because I already made an observation that you're making right now that it's not rotating. Okay? You wouldn't feel, you need acceleration to feel anything. If you're just moving, you won't feel you need to accelerate or decelerate. Big deal. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about reality and the fact that you're not moving. We can't rely on our senses alone. Sean, that's the only way that you can perceive anything. The only way that you know you're even a person is by using your senses, okay? If you're going to take a measurement from something, you're using your senses to take that measurement. If it's a piece of machinery or a whatever apparatus, great. But you're still, without your senses alone, you wouldn't even be able to perceive that there was a reading on any measurement, on any measuring device, okay? The point is that to ignore your senses and actually believe the opposite of them is not science, Sean. So you can say it's pathetic, you can say insults or whatever you want. Okay, this is what Sean says. Is a clock's hour hand moving? Watch it for 10 minutes and tell me if it moves. Of course it's moving. It's the hour hand of a clock. That's called reality. The ground is not moving. See, everyone here, everyone that's alive, everyone that's ever lived, observes for 24 hours a day, unless they were in an earthquake or a landslide. They've observed for 24 hours a day their whole life the stationary earth that's not moving beneath their feet. It's not something you can argue with, Sean. Okay, so science would say, okay, we know the ground isn't moving. We know that the stars are moving. That's science, okay? To imagine something and to make a hypothetical scenario like you're sitting on something spinning or whatever, that's just an idea. That's a concept. But the reality of the fact, or the reality of the situation, and which is a fact, is that the ground beneath you doesn't move. I don't know how anyone could come up with the idea that it does move. Pendulums don't prove that it moves. So according to you, the clock doesn't move. No, I just told you that it's moving, Sean. You're being dishonest. According to me, the clock does move. The hour hand is continuously moving, right? That's what I think. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a clock, okay? Just like the sky, which is a clock, it is always moving. Just like the hour hand and the minute hand that's how your watch actually, that's what your watch is actually trying to be tuned into, is the sky, okay? It's trying to mimic what the sky does. That is what a watch is. That's what the sun, moon, and stars are. They're for signs, seasons, days, and years, and for lights. Okay, but here's the point of, I didn't want to make this go forever, but I do like interacting with people in the chat. I do. And so what Sean's idea is that there's a reference frame. And Sean wants to picture himself up in the sky looking down on the earth where he's not. So that's why he's screwed up with his idea of the earth moving. It's clearly not moving. We test our observations. Exactly. I'm testing it right now. Okay. Sean says, we test our observations. We don't just rely on what we see. Science requires evidence, and looking is not evidence. Okay, Sean. Do me a favor. On your next comment, just tell me what you're observing that gives you the idea that the earth is rotating. Okay? The ground beneath your feet is telling you that it's rotating. How? Put that in the chat. I want to know. Okay, so in Isaiah 49, he's asking who can declare these former things. Then he says, let them bring forth their witnesses that they may be justified, or let them hear and say, it is truth. And that's what we're saying. You aren't testing anything? Yeah, I am. Right now, Sean. I'm sitting in a room that's stationary. I'm observing this room that's stationary. You are too. So, tell me what you tested to give you the idea that the ground in the room you're in was moving or turning or rotating, whatever. And then I'm good. You're trolling is what you're doing now. Observations aren't tests. Well, I can test it by putting balancing a quarter on its side, and I'll tell you, it won't fall down unless you bump it, right? Because they like to do that on a moving train. People like to put that to see how smooth that moving train is. They put that quarter up on the side. Pretty cool. Well, you can do that on the earth too, and the quarter won't fall because the earth is so still all the time. Anyway, so it is truth, guys, and that's what people are saying. Ye are my witnesses, saith the Lord, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me, and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed, neither shall there be after me. Do you guys hear what that just said? What's the something that all the flat earthers will believe or will agree on, no matter what their specific beliefs are? They're all going to agree on something, and that is that when you see flat earth, it shows you that God is right up in the sky, right up in by them clouds, right up in the sky, and that he lives up there, and that it's his domain up there, and that there's a firmament up there, and he's above it. His feet, there's a sea of glass at the foot of his throne. And once you realize that, and I don't know how that happens, but it just says that right in Isaiah, that ye may know and believe me. Who wants to know God? Believe him and understand that I am he. That's what Flat Earth does. It makes you understand that God is real, and in a very real way. That's amazing to me. Ye are my witnesses, saith the Lord. Okay, Isaiah 43 verse 12 says, I have declared and have saved, I have showed, when there was no strange God among you, therefore ye are my witnesses, saith the Lord, that I am God. That's pretty cool. So do you guys see that this is a prophecy about, clearly about flat earth, or whatever you want to call it, enclosed cosmology? George Washington says, I'm asking to learn. Let's see, I got behind on the chat a little bit. Welcome everyone, by the way. It's awesome to see you all. Let's see. Super Dave 44, I'm standing on the ground right now and haven't seen it move yet. 44 years I've been alive and I haven't seen it move once. Oh, George Washington says, on the video, can men get through the firmament? The silent hunter said that if you think the stars are above you, then you aren't spiritually awake. What did he mean? That's a good question, George. I asked him to clarify, and he says rather condescendingly, oh, you got to figure it out yourself there, buddy. Well, you know what? I don't know, George Washington, what that person is trying to say, but I'll tell you this much, that a person that has vital information, valid information, doesn't behave that way. Doesn't say you're gonna have to find it on your own. Doesn't figure it out there yourself, buddy. Okay, that what that is that's a person that I don't know. I'm not gonna like rip on them, but I'm gonna tell you that it's a bunch of hogwash. The stars are clearly in the sky. If we go to Genesis, we can learn that God made the stars on the fourth day, and we can learn a lot about the stars. They're definitely up in the sky. They're definitely above us. All the heavens are above the earth. We live on the earth, so it's above us for sure. So that person, I wouldn't listen to them, George Washington. I think that a lot of people say things like that, either to get people to reply. But they really don't have anything to say, probably. Cover to Cover with Jeremy Pierce says, yes, the stars are the luminaries in the waters above. Yes. And there's darkness up there. There's dark waters. And then there, above that, because in Psalm 18 it says that the darkness is beneath God's feet, and that he stretched out, or what does it say? It says he bowed the heavens and came down, and darkness was under his feet. And then it says he made darkness his secret place. His pavilion round about him were dark waters and thick clouds of the skies. Captain Caveman, chained unto darkness. Yes, chains of darkness, or Yeah, they're the fallen angels. That's where they are. They're in the firmament. And now with space exploration, that's going to bring in the end of the world, because that's what they're doing. They're breaking all these fallen angels out of their prison. They're connecting that prison with the earth, and that will be destruction. That's going to be a big problem, and it's already began. It's already well been going like that. There's a space station. If you think it's a fake station, you have a surprise coming. And that's actually on Fight the Flat Earth. We're going to be talking about that a little bit tonight. I think it's at 6 p.m. Central, I think. But I don't know that for sure. But I talked to Craig and kind of verified that we're going to do it. And I'm gathering some evidence. I'm going to be talking about how space is a place, definitely a place, but there's no physics or elements or anything there, unless men bring them there. So, and that is part of the problem in the end. That's part of there's a firmament, and men. Actually, that video that I put out yesterday, can men break through into the firmament? Can men break through the firmament? Yes, they can. At the end, they can. The prophets told us this. They're going to tread New Jerusalem underfoot. Where's New Jerusalem? Oh, it's up in heaven. It comes down out of heaven from God. So that's prophesied to happen. They'll defile his secret place. That's in Ezekiel 7, I think. The robbers will enter into it and defile it. Space exploration. That's what that is. But men think that they're actually exploring a place, but they've entered into outer darkness, and they're just letting all the evil spirits and fallen angels and darkness come into this world. Hello, COVID-19. Hello, all of this weirdness that's happening. Hello, the shot and all that stuff. That's all part of that. When they went to the moon, this will kind of prove what I'm talking about. When they went to the moon, Apollo 11, what did the astronauts do when they got back to Earth for 3 weeks? What did the astronauts do? They were quarantined. Why? Because NASA didn't know if they would bring some kind of virus or some kind of foreign thing into this world. You never know. So they were quarantined for 3 weeks to make sure nothing was wrong. So it's not a silly idea to think of viruses and things like that being brought to us from the sky. Meteors come from the sky. We don't know everything that's going on up there. They want to pretend they do. Okay, so I'm going to do this. So that's why we have so many people that are witnesses to the truth. Because he sent his spirit of truth to show us the truth, to guide us into all truth. That's what Jesus said. He will show you things to come. That's why a lot of us understand that the time we're in is so crucial right now, because it's the time that has been written about for millennia. So let's see here. We could talk about the dragon. I'm sure you're sick of hearing about the dragon. That's spiritual warfare. SpaceX dragon. It's not a space capsule bringing astronauts to and from the space station, resupplying and bringing cargo to and from the station. No. It's spiritual warfare. It's a war in heaven. And yeah, men are involved. They're fighting against God. You know, it's Lucifer that said he was going to exalt his throne above the stars of God, and he was going to ascend into heaven. Well, John already told us in Revelation 12 that Satan is the dragon. The dragon that John saw flying in the heavens, that was Satan. It's on your screen. And a lot of people will think that's ridiculous. Go ahead. Maybe you should join with SpongeBob. Flying sideways to get to outer space. Don't believe it, guys. Let's see. What is this for? Oh, I was on a rocket launch. Let's watch this a second. I was on a rocket launch. Alright, we're off. I'm glad I get a couple minutes to hang out with you guys alone. I wanted to talk about something to you. We're going up to space, per se, in a rocket, and I don't know if it's such a good idea now that I thought about it. Because are we maybe lifting up a shout up against God? Jesus said in John chapter 3, verse 12, "If I have told you earthly things, and ye believe not, how shall ye believe if I tell you of heavenly things?" And then listen to this, guys. He says this, "And no man ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man, which is in heaven." So what are we doing, you guys? What are we doing? What is the point of any of this? Daniel 7. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised itself up on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth. It devoured, and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. It was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him, Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. I beheld then because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion, and glory, and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me, and made me know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them, until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times, and the dividing of time. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end. And the kingdom and dominion, and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven, shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart. One word in this chapter, in verse 3, that I want to talk about, and it is the word ram. Daniel said that he lifted up his eyes, and there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns. Let's look at that word. This is very important. At least the way I understand it, it's very important. Now, we've all seen pictures of these visions. Like if we were to Google images, the ram that Daniel saw, it would show an animal up in the sky. Like it would show a ram up in the sky. Actually, let's just do that just for fun. The ram in Daniel 8. And we'll do images. Do you see what I mean? Okay, you see this ram flying up in the sky. and we'll go over the whole thing, but it's not an animal, guys. I know it sounds like it would be an animal because it's a ram, but that word has a different meaning in addition to being a ram. So he says, I lifted my eyes and saw, and there a ram was standing. Let's look at that word. I learned that word is used for something else in 1 Kings, and so here's the word, 352 AYIL, and the definition is a ram. So if we look right away, the ram as a leader of a flock, it's talking about an animal. Compare ram of sacrifice as yielding wool. Okay, that's definitely talking about the animal. But look down here. Right here. Number 2. Noun. Masculine. Projecting pillar or pilaster. And that in Kings and in Ezekiel, it's used as posts or like the structural part of Solomon's temple, the entrance to Solomon's temple. The lintel, which is a straight kind of header piece. Look down here, it says in Ezekiel 40:16, it says pilaster or projection in wall at each side of entrance. That's the one in the temple, in Ezekiel's temple. So there's also the leader or chief, leader of a flock. So that's talking about an animal again. Now here's another. This is terebinth, probably as prominent lofty tree. So what I'm getting out of this, look at Strong's Exhaustive Concordance. So we know that a ram is an animal. We know that. But it's the word is used differently also. Mighty man, lintel. Let's just do this. What is a lintel? A horizontal support of timber, stone, concrete, or steel across the top of a door or a window, like a header. Let's just look at the images here. Here's one that's pretty clear. The lintel up there is the top piece. It's a horizontal, straight, structural header. So, oak post. We know what a post is. A ram, there's the animal, and a tree. It says, from the same as UWL, properly strength, hence anything strong, specifically a chief politically, also a ram from his strength, the animal, a pilaster as a strong support, an oak or other strong tree, mighty man, lintel, oak, post, ram, tree. So there's two meanings of this word ram. One of them happens to be a post or a pilaster. A pilaster, if you don't know what that is, we'll look at that. It's a column that's built into the wall. A rectangular column, especially one projecting from a wall. You guys have seen pilasters many times. They're built into the facade of many houses and many buildings. I'll find a prime example. Well, right here. These are pilasters. If we look at this, you can see there's columns here on the left under the words, but then to the right there's a pilaster. See, it looks like a column, but it's built into the building. It's part of the structure. Here's another image with some pilasters. So, with the rest of what Daniel tells us about his vision, there's something in our world today that matches this description all too well and with too much detail. Let me show you. Daniel chapter 8. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw, that I was at the Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beasts might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will, and became great. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, towards the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the host, and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice, and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. And it came to pass, when I, even I, Daniel, had seen the vision, and sought for the meaning, then, behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. So he came near where I stood, and when he came I was afraid, and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, Understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Now as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground, but he touched me, and set me upright. And he said, Behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation, for at the time appointed the end shall be. The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days. And I, Daniel, fainted, and was sick certain days. Afterward I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it. Alright, so that was Daniel 7 and 8. I figured I wanted to go over that again and again and again. That's about it. And tonight, I think it's at 6 p.m. Central. Fight the Flat Earth. I think I'm going to be going and debating or whatever on that channel. So, I'm pretty sure I am, actually. So, I'll check right after this if there's a link up, and I'll probably do a post on the community tab just with a link in case anyone's interested. It's always interesting over talking with Craig. It's a different situation, but there's a lot of people that show up there, and a lot of them might be able to see the truth. So you guys have a wonderful rest of the day. I was gonna remind you of one more thing before we go. Subscribe, and yeah, have a good day, and remember that the earth is